Welcome to Transformed and Transformational, a Teach Beyond podcast. I'm Kian.
And I'm Heather. We're here to explore what it means to be transformed in our own lives and how that overflows to living lives of transformational impact in our communities.
Today we're talking with two school leaders about what it looks like to be a head of school or school director. So I'm wondering, Heather, what memories come to your mind or of principals or other school administrators that you had when you were in school?
Oh, I immediately think of Mr. Klein. I can picture his face. He was the building principal of my elementary school, the primary level, and it was a large school. It was a public school in Pennsylvania. But Mr. Klein was known for knowing every single student's name. So I remember him standing at the door. It probably wasn't every day, but most days, greeting us all. And he was greeting us by name. And it was just shocking to know how I don't know. I felt so seen and known by my school leader amidst the sea of faces in my school just because I was greeted by name.
I love that. That is very impressive. Even my kids' school, my oldest was already in school, and the principals knew his younger brother's name, which was
Ah,
awesome because kind of as he was entering kindergarten, they already knew who he
yeah.
was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how about you? Any memories or maybe any principal's office stories?
Sure. Well, I guess I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I did end up in the principal's office once in middle school. It was This is the season. It was in the middle of a snowball fight that then turned into a real fight.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I guess evidently my friend didn't want to get pushed down into the snow, and it escalated from there.
Yeah. Well, I can't see you getting into a school fight, so this sounds like a bit of a fluke situation.
I guess so. I mean, it only happened once, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
did. I learned my lesson, I guess.
Well, I'm excited to be able to talk today with Walter Hopkins and Lori Neuman as part of our monthly Teacher's Desk series.
Walter is the school director at Life International School outside of Madrid, Spain, where he lives with his wife and two high schoolers. Walter grew up in Western New York, went to Houghton College, and he and his wife taught in the New York public schools for 7 years after graduating from Houghton. He then taught at Indiana Wesleyan University and Michigan State University in languages and linguistics. He is coming up on 3 years in Spain.
And Lori has been living in Albania and working at GDQ International Christian School for almost 19 years. She grew up in Illinois, studied journalism at the University of Kansas, and then earned a graduate degree in educational leadership from the University of North Texas.
Let's go over to that conversation with Lori and Walter now.
Welcome to the podcast, Lori and Walter.
Hi, good to be with you.
Yeah, great to be with you.
Well, we're so glad to be able to talk with you to get a flavor, a taste of what it looks like to be a head of school in your location, at your school, hear a little bit of your story. So let's get started with just where you are in the world. Where do you serve? How long have you been there? And maybe what first attracted you to that country, to your school specifically? Let's start there. So, Lori, why don't you begin?
So, I am the head of school at GDQ, International Christian School in Tirana, Albania. And I've been at the school and in Albania since 2006. So, this is my 19th school year at GDQ. And I was attracted initially to the school because of Albania, actually, not the school. I felt that God was calling me to Albania when I came and taught a 1 week conference for women, a Bible study to pass on. It was a discipleship ministry. And at this 1 week conference in 2004, I fell in love with Albania. Felt God calling me to come and to work with actually Albanians. And I came back again in 2006 to teach again at this 1 week conference. And one of the women at the conference told me about the school and that opportunity. And I just knew that was what God was calling me and preparing me to do. So I came in 2006 and haven't looked back since.
For those who are unfamiliar with Albania, what's kind of the quick overview that you tell people about life in Albania or about cultural climate there?
Well, if you don't know about Albania, you probably are not alone. I couldn't find it on the map until I came myself, so don't feel too bad. Most of the time when we talk with people about GDQ, it's like, okay, do you know Albania exists? So
Yeah.
that's a good question. So Albania is a beautiful, beautiful country. It's kind of the heel of the boot of Italy is pointing at Albania. So that's the easiest way to find it on the map. And it's on the coast of the Adriatic and the Albanian Sea, 75% mountainous. So it's a beautiful
hmm
landscape
hmm
country, and the people themselves are so hospitable. And it is a Muslim majority country, but they're so open to the gospel, and that's what makes it such a unique place to be. Because
Mhm.
despite people's Muslim faith, a lot of that is nominal, in the same way that Christian faith in the US has become that way. And so people want to talk about what they believe. They want to talk about all the things that we shouldn't talk about, supposedly, in the US: politics, religion, money. Those are the kind of topics of choice by Albanians. So it gives so many opportunities to speak about what you believe. And they love Americans, which is also a
Mm,
unique thing. Most of the time when you travel, it's not, yeah, coming from the US, you don't necessarily get looked highly upon, but that's kind of the opposite in Albania. They love people from
mm,
the US, they want to go to the US. So that too leads to the opportunity to have good conversations with people.
mhm. That's great. Walter, how about you? Where are you located and what's kind of your background for getting there?
Yeah, so I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, I guess. I'm serving in Spain at Life International School, but I'm just about to wrap up my third year. So I arrived in February of 2022, and came specifically to be the head of school, to take over from the founding head of school.
Mm,
Our school started in 2017 with just 9 students,
hmm,
and today we just welcomed, I think, our 115th or something, because we had two
wow.
students that started today. Um, so it's been a journey to get here. Um, I was particularly felt interested and called to Spain, um, as a result of some past experiences that I had prior to coming. Um, I was a language teacher before this, so I taught Spanish and French. I studied abroad in Spain and the southern part of Spain when I
Mm,
was an undergraduate student, and during that time, just really discovered and recognized the need for the gospel here in Spain.
mm,
Spain is though it's not a a place with a significant amount of material poverty, though that does exist. I would say that it has a significant amount of spiritual poverty.
mm,
And I didn't know that the Lord was going to bring me back here to Spain, but my wife and I have always felt like we would be overseas at some point in our future. We weren't sure where or how long or what that would look like. But she grew up in Brazil, and so we both had that kind of international mindset. And so when the opportunity came available here at Life International School in Madrid, um, we inquired,
mhm,
and the next thing you know, things were moving forward very quickly,
yeah,
and here we are. So
yeah.
it's been an adventure getting here, but we're glad to be here and serving together.
Mhm,
My wife serves here at the school as well, and we're both educators and excited to be involved in growing a school. So
mm,
it was started, like I said, in 2017, um, but now we're in kind of in that growing stage of, okay, the school started, we had the kind of the pioneer to get the school started. Now it's okay, let's mm, get some things set up so that the school can actually remain sustainable into the future.
mhm,
So
mhm. Yeah, that's a new phase of growth for the school. And can
right.
you tell me specifically the strategic impact for that school for what you're seeing in the community there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Spain, well, Christ-centered education doesn't really exist in Spain. Um, there's been a Christian school, a Christ-centered school in Spain for 50 years, here on the other side of Madrid. Primarily served a missionary kid population, but life was started really with the idea of reaching the Spanish population with God's love through Christ-centered education. Um, so it was started not with a desire to serve the missionary kid population, but rather specifically um, to reach Spaniards.
Mhm,
And what's been a surprise to us is that, yes, we do have lots of Spaniard families, but we also have families from many other countries.
mm,
I think we're up to 29 different countries represented within the
hmm.
school. And a school of our size, that's a significant number.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
and uh, and so so it's been really. fascinating to see how what the vision was initially to reach Spain
Mhm.
has been expanded to reaching the nations, really,
Yeah.
for with the gospel message. So that's kind of been the direction.
Lori, how would you describe the current phase of GDQ in its growth and development? Where are you in kind of the history of like the timeline of the school?
Well, GDQ opened shortly after communism fell in Albania, which was in the beginning of the 90s. So we opened in 1993. So we have been established now for a while and have been certainly growing since then. But we feel now the desire certainly is to not just impact the community that we have, and the school is focused on missionary kids and supporting the missionary families in the community, though we do have students outside of that as well. We would like to really be able to influence the Albanian education system and specifically Christian education in Albania. So, what we would like to do is get to a place, and I think that's beginning now, being able to really strategically help the schools be established because at this point there is not a Christian education there is one school that just opened for Albanians in Albanian. So we're excited to be a part of that. I serve on the board for that school. But we would love to see many Christian schools open for Albanians, just like Walter School is existing. So we'd love to be able to support that while also helping the missionary community by having a school for them too. So that's the goal and kind of the direction definitely that we would like to take.
Yeah. Well, this is such bigger picture vision and these longer term aims for your regions. And then there's the day to day, right? So I'd love for you to paint a picture of what the day to day looks like for a head of school. What does a head of school do if we were just to start with that really basic question? So, Walter, maybe you can start us off with that. What does that look like for you?
Sure. I would say that the day to day has changed for me a fair amount in the time that I've been here because when I came on, the previous head of school he was on his own and had a curriculum coordinator that kind of worked alongside of him, and he was he was a jack of all trades, and so he would change light bulbs and he just did everything. And as I came in, I was like, I can't do that. I'm not a jack of all trades. I have no no ability whatsoever to fix the toilet or to do any of those types of things. And so it was certainly an adjustment period for me. But it's settled down to this year with some additional administrators that have come on, for which I'm very grateful. And for the very first time, I have an administrative assistant this year, for which I'm very grateful. A lot of my day to day is, I guess, what I would like to call, I call it shepherding. I feel like the Lord has placed a shepherd's heart in me, and that's what I love to be able to do, is to be able to shepherd the staff and the students. But of course, there are so many things that are part of the day. There's a lot of putting out fires. There's a lot of interacting with people via email. But the and many other things that take place throughout the day. But I would say the ones that are the most meaningful for me are those interactions with people, that opportunity to speak into the lives of my staff, to speak into the lives of students, to interact with them, and to really to be a part of their discipleship, their spiritual growth. That's I wish I could say that that was more of my day to day.
Mm.
That's kind of, I would say maybe that's my dream day to day, because there are so many other things that interrupt that. But when I am able to do that, that's certainly what gives me the most joy, is to be
Mm.
able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Lori?
Yeah, I mean, as Walter said, each day is a little bit different. Certainly ebbs and flows depending on the season. But I would say, kind of overall, to get a sense of my day, we always begin the day with staff devotions, and that's something that I really enjoy leading. We spend time focused from the beginning of the time the day begins as a staff focused on the Bible and praying together. And then I also lead the announcements for the K-12 students on the PA system. So we read the Bible and we kind of begin the day with prayer and any kind of announcements and birthday celebrations. And that's kind of a fun way to kind of begin the day. And I know one of the elementary kids yesterday was like, do you know whose voice is on the announcements at the beginning of each day? And I'm like, who? And they're like, you. That's kind of like, yeah, I had no
Celebrity
idea.
status.
Yeah. So it was kind of funny. But in a small, it seems like such a small thing, but it's a way that I can connect with the students and the staff each day without physically needing to see them. Obviously
Yeah.
that's not in
Yeah.
place of physically seeing them, but it's just
Sure.
a connection I can have each day. But then I love being able to drop into classrooms and I'm not I do have principals of each of the different sections of the school. So I'm not evaluating the staff. So it's almost more fun to go in because they don't feel like, oh no, I'm being evaluated right now. So it's fun to just be able to drop in and see what's going on in the classes and go to recess times and kind of just spend time just getting a sense of the culture of the school and what's happening in a low stakes kind of setting. But a lot of my day is spent in meetings, just trying to
Mm.
connect with families, connect with different opportunities for the school and the community, recruitment, trying to connect with new people. It's meetings online, it's meetings face to face, it's the finance meetings, it's the board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of time in email, doing emails, which doesn't seem like it's that fun, but it's just, part of the job and something
Mm-hmm.
that needs to get done. And communication is a big thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure to do that well and often. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a big mix of kind of the day to day little minute things, but also the big picture in the direction that the school is going. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
fun mix. Each day is unique and full of new
Yeah.
things that I have no idea that will come. And that's honestly what makes it fun is it's always
Mm-hmm.
different.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah.
I often say there's never a dull moment. Uh,
Yeah. Well, Walter, you alluded to the fact that the previous director had a different bent than was kind of gifted in slightly different ways. And it strikes me that school leaders will have different giftings or different approaches to how they lead. But it is important to see the people in front of you, to care about the community you're in, to make sure tasks are getting done, right? Those big categories. But then how that plays out, you might have someone who's a little more business minded or a little more pastoral or more academically focused, and certainly all of those are important, but the different flavors of leadership can come out. It's neat to hear how each of you kind of define what that looks like for you.
Let's take a short break for a story from the field.
Hi, my name is Randy Dewick, and together with Jessica Molding, we are the hosts of the Fellowship of School Leaders. This is a group of several cohorts that have happened over the years. It's in its fourth year at this point in time, and it's all about the idea of helping school leaders remain encouraged, remain strengthened, remain connected, making sure that they know that they are not alone. Being a school leader can be a lonely, isolating, and some days terrifying calling. And this is a place where they can get together with one another, with peers, with others who report to their boards, with others who have a staff that they are accountable for, and connect, ask questions, share stories with peers who get it because they are in it. So many times we will be talking about something big or small, and we will see nods across the screens, and it's so encouraging for those who are speaking because they see that other people are getting what they're talking about and what they're thinking about. It's a place that is safe, understanding, it's hospitable, and this group of 19 is from all across the world. From Bolivia to Mauritius to Spain, really literally these folks are all across the world when they're hearing each other's stories and connecting with one another. We call our gathering times campfires, where we imagine sitting around a fire and each of us getting a chance to talk, to share, sometimes about a particular topic, or an input, but often really just looking for what do you need to share with the group. And then we pray for one another, and there's great power in that as well. And just holding one another up in prayer, and somebody in Bolivia being prayed for by somebody in somewhere in Africa, and that person being prayed for by somebody in wherever it might be around the world. There's incredible power in that. So many times when we have finished a fellowship of school leaders gathering, and I leave my room where my computer is in, and if my wife is at home, I'll say to her, I cannot believe that I get to participate in this. Because the experience that I've had in the gathering and our campfire time together, I find so inspiring. I find these school leaders so inspiring. This is a group of people that are deeply committed to doing good work in their school communities. They are deeply committed to education as mission, as bringing Christ's goodness and love and glory into the learning experience of these kids wherever they are. This really matters deeply. They have a strong sense of calling. And on such a regular basis, they need to deal with things that their own schooling could never have prepared them for. Crazy things happen everywhere in the world in school. Things impact schools, things happen within schools, and they come up against things that they've just never thought about before, and they need to lead through it. And often I will say, so how do you deal with that? And most times they will respond that they are resilient because they know that they really need to trust God each and every day and each and every experience. And they need to follow God's guidance, God's direction, God's timing in all of these things. So it's remarkable stories time after time after time. And I have a massive amount of appreciation and respect for these school leaders. And I give thanks to God for them, for the work that they do, and day in and day out, for their staying power, for their faith, for their commitment, for their love of God, and for their love of the students and the school communities that they serve.
For our weekly spotlight, we are focusing on GDQ in Albania and Life International School in Spain. If you want to work on the team with Lori or Walter, and they both sound like great leaders, visit teachbeyond.org/go or click on the link in the show notes. We also have a number of opportunities for heads of school and school leaders in a wide variety of countries and projects. Visit teachbeyond.org/head-of-school to learn more. Now let's go back to a roundtable discussion.
I'm curious if we back it up on your path to this role, your path to becoming a school leader. Is this, somewhat a surprise? If you were to look back 20 years ago, would you be surprised that you are where you are now? Had you always kind of hoped that you'd become a head of school or a principal or something like that? So fill us in on kind of rewind. What does that look like for you? Lori, let's start with you.
Well, I definitely would not have put myself as the head of school when I was in school myself. I think people probably laugh now thinking about that. Um, but I definitely came the back way into education. My background is actually my undergraduate's in journalism, uh, but I began college as music education and decided that
Hmm.
no, I didn't want to teach. I love music, but I wouldn't want to teach. So it's kind of funny the way that happens. I say that God doesn't waste anything, and I
Yeah.
truly believe that because when I began teaching, when I came to Albania to teach this women's conference, I was not in education at all at that time. I was actually managing a Chick-fil-A in Texas,
Oh,
of
wow.
all things. And so I was thinking at that point, I just finished a discipleship program and thought, what am I going to do with my life? And thought, well, I love kids, and I had enjoyed working with adults with special needs, and thought, well, maybe I'll teach special ed. And so I went back to school, got a job teaching full time in a public school in Texas. And in those between 2004 and 2006, I was teaching. And when I came back to Albania and found out about GDQ, I was like, wow, well, that was exactly what God had been preparing me to do. So I came to GDQ and taught middle school and had no sense at all that I wanted to be involved in school leadership, just enjoyed teaching and being with the kids. At that point, GDQ did not include a high school. So when that we opened a high school, we joined the existing high school co-op to be officially with GDQ in 2009. And at that point in time, I began as the high school principal, and then moved into the assistant head of school position in 2016, knowing that the head of school was going to be leaving and that I would transition to that place. But I would definitely not, until that moment, I would not have seen myself in that position. And I think that that's probably a good thing, because I think sometimes we can be scared off or, yeah, intimidated by the idea or overwhelmed by it. So I think God gives us little by little additional responsibilities and ideas and opportunities. And so I think it's just important to say yes and to trust God with what He's giving you, and seek Him in all of it. But I think pursuing what we can and think is maybe not something we can do on our own. But if someone sees something in us and gives us that opportunity, I think that sometimes we don't know what we're capable of until we have the chance to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Walter, how about you? Tell us more about your background.
Yeah, well, I would say first that I never, ever 20 years ago would have imagined myself sitting in this chair. um, there were a number of things that I, how you tell yourself things that you're not going to do in your lifetime. Well, this was one of those things. And I was a teacher for many years before taking on my first administrative role. Um, and it was at Michigan State University. I was the assistant director of the Spanish language program, so I oversaw the basically the first year and second year language program there. Um, and I had been involved in leadership positions in other settings in my life, in church, for example, but never, and had been even in work. I was involved in some leadership roles at the previous schools that I'd worked at. But I think that what shifted was that after I had the opportunity at Michigan State, and then I went back to just teaching, I missed a bit of that administrative piece. I missed the opportunity to interact with people in a different way than just being their teacher, right? And being able to invest in them in a different way. And um, so I didn't go to school to be an educational leader. um, I'm in the process now of taking courses in leadership. So yeah, so there are three things I've said to myself that I would never do: one, be a school leader, a school administrator; two, study online; and three, get a doctoral degree. And all three of those things are things that I'm currently doing. um, and so I'm currently working on a degree in strategic leadership. Um, it's not primarily focused on education, because the online programs that I found that I would be able to do from here were primarily U.S. focused. And so this is a bit more international, and um, and I'm learning a fair amount. I mean, I'm excited. I never thought I would say I would be. There's that part of me that's terrified. I don't really want to be doing this. I don't know how I'm possibly going to have time for this. But there's also a part of me that really actually enjoys kind of being a student again, even though I would never ever would have thought I would hear myself saying that. I never imagined that I would enjoy going back and quote unquote being in the classroom, right? Because I've been a teacher for my entire adult life, and so it's been an adventure, but I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah. I'm hearing themes through what both of you have shared about the response to what the Lord's doing in your life and being willing to say yes. And I think sometimes we might have a fear that He will say something that we don't want Him to say, or lead us to something that we kind of don't want to do. And Walter, you're alluding to that a little bit there, but also this recognition that there is such great opportunity and beautiful blessing in the saying yes, and that he is the one who sustains us as we say those yeses, even as it takes us to places that we never would have expected, right? I resonate with that as well. With different paths to becoming a school leader, there might be thoughts as someone's teaching or as someone's pursuing a degree, like, oh, could this be for me? So what are your suggestions for someone who might be considering that right now?
Yeah, I would say yes, take that next step and see what it's like. And if you think, well, I don't have the training, like Walter said, he's getting it now. I did the same. I went back to school online. I found it really helpful. I took classes to get my master's in educational leadership when I was the principal of the high school, and I felt like it was tremendously helpful. So say yes and see what happens. I don't think that, like I said, I think God uses everything that we go through in life. And so if you say yes and you try it and it's not for you, I think that you'll have gained that experience and will use
Mm,
that moving
mhm.
ahead to what God has called you to. So I would say you don't know exactly what anything's gonna be like until you give it a shot. So give it a shot, go for it and see what God
Yeah.
has.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say are the hallmarks of a good school leader? Like, what does it look like for a school leader to be doing their job well and for, kind of things to be flourishing and thriving?
I actually polled a few of the staff at lunchtime and just to get kind of their thoughts on it. And interestingly, they said a lot of what they said had to do with approachability,
Hmm.
which I think kind of goes hand in hand too with kind of emotional stability. And what they said is, when they see a school leader not being phased by things, or not letting their emotions get in the way of leading, that makes a big difference to them. That they don't feel like anything is too small or that someone's not too busy. That they don't want to know what's going on or don't want to be involved and don't want to help. So emotional stability and that empathy of being able to talk to someone well and listen well definitely stood out in the responses they gave me. I think having realistic, reasonable expectations of the staff as well. I think if it's at all possible for you as a head of school and even an admin to stay in the classroom to some extent is really helpful. So that's not always possible. I taught high school math for as long as I possibly could. COVID was the end of that time for me. It was like, okay, I can't do all of this well, but I still lead a high school small group and am involved in that and can see like if I'm asking things of the staff that I myself one don't want to do or don't think I have time to do, then that's probably a good check. Like I don't think this is a good thing to be asking of the staff. So I think keeping reasonable expectations of them, being approachable and as much as obviously is possible, being emotionally stable and available to them, and also good communication and delegation. So delegating has these two extremes, right? Like you can micromanage everything or you can delegate everything. And I don't think either of those are healthy, good options. But delegating done well is a win win because it's showing that you trust someone to be able to handle responsibility and it's lessening something that you have to do. So I think it's healthy to delegate because you can't do it all. I can't do it all. And even though sometimes I think that I can, that's just, pride and not true. I think delegating is a true key to being a successful school leader because it's investing in the staff, it's investing in the next generation of leadership of the school, and it's also making sure that you can keep a healthy balance as well.
Walter, anything to add on that?
Wow, I couldn't have said it better myself. In fact, those many of the very same things that you said, Lori, are the exact same things that I would say. I think, and I'll just reiterate them very briefly. Just the that caring attitude,
Hmm.
the empathy, the that ability to maintain emotional stability or emotional intelligence, right?
Hmm.
Um, and but also the ability to delegate. I think that's something that has been a learning process. I think that sometimes people are they give something over to someone else, and then they just kind of forget about it. And then there are those people, and then there's those people that give something over to someone else, and then they're constantly on their backs trying to make sure that it's getting done right. And it's got to be somewhere in the middle there you have to give people tasks that they can do, and that they feel like they're going to be successful at, and then you're helping them along, guiding them in the process of doing those things. But yeah, absolutely, those things that you mentioned are without question, I think, the hallmarks of a good school leader, and those are things that I'm growing in and learning throughout the process. You know, each year they do the evaluation of the head of school, and you think, oh no, what are they going to say now? And those are things that I hear in there. It's that emotional stability, it's the caring, the ability to delegate. Those types of things are the things that people really desire in a school leader.
And I can hear the value of having other leaders in your school that are on your team, that are people you can trust to delegate to, and
Exactly.
that's so beneficial to not just be one school leader who's, doing everything. You're not gonna be able to do that, and so to build that team and have people in other leadership roles, not even just the head of school, director, top leadership role.
Yeah, you have to have people to delegate to.
Yeah, right, exactly. Lori, you mentioned that you polled your staff on that question about what are the hallmarks of a good leader. And I'm curious, if you were to talk with staff or potential staff about their role in the school, because it's obviously not all the head of school show, it's not all up to you. What would you say to them? How can a teacher or another member of the school staff collaborate well with the head of school and kind of team well with them to help make the school run effectively?
I have to say, read emails, which seems kind of a funny thing, but
Communication is key, right?
yes, I find I send a lot of emails out, and it's helpful when people actually read those and even better respond. So
Mm,
probably
mm.
my staff listening to this will be like, yeah, yeah. But I do feel like flexibility obviously is key. And I think kind of thinking the best, when I was thinking about this question, it made me think about how there are situations that happen at school that I can't communicate all of the details. And so it's easy, obviously, when you don't communicate, people fill in with their own
Mm,
idea of what happened. And so I guess just to think the best of me, of the head of school, and the decisions that are being made, and uh, to be willing to say yes, like I said previously, and just work, yeah, give a chance to the people around you. Um,
mhm,
yeah, I'd say, yeah, thinking the best of people all the time is something I think is helpful. And I'm just
yeah,
by nature a really positive person, very optimistic. And so that's probably
mm,
easy for me to say. And I know that's not naturally something that people always do think, but I would say in staff working with the leadership, being as positive as possible and being open in communication, because
mhm,
if we don't know what's going on, we can't help. And I know
mm,
sometimes people have a thought like, I don't want to bother you, or I don't want to,
hmm,
I don't know, I don't want to communicate what's going on for a million different reasons. I would say stop that way of thinking and think like community is helpful. And as much as you
yeah,
can communicate, that's as much as we'll be able to help. So
yeah.
I would say communication really is key.
As we're coming to the end of this conversation, just thank you both so much for sharing about your role, about your vision for being a good school leader. And I'm wondering, Walter, can you share just briefly how you've seen God at work in your school, in your community recently?
One of the things that I have discovered is that one of the most important ways that someone can support a school leader is through prayer. And we have a group of parents that pray literally
Mm,
right outside this window in my office here every single morning, and we see God working. We um, we had over $30,000 come in the month of December for the school, which was something that was just incredible
Mm,
for us to. Well, actually, no, I take that back. It would be a 45,000 because uh, someone had put up a 15,000 matching fund
mm,
for more Christian schools in Spain, and that was something that was sent out, and that was, people were asking for donations for that. But then um, money just trickled in over the month of December for Life School, for the school itself. And it was over 15,000 just for that.
mm,
And so just really encouraging to see, um, you know, also in terms of for myself as a human being, I recognize the need for people to be praying for me, and it always is encouraging for me to know that there are parents that
mm,
gather together and are lifting me up in prayer each and every day. And um, the, these 3 years have had their ups and downs,
mhm,
and I'm grateful to say that though I went through a very difficult time earlier this school year, I was having some health challenges. Um, that I knew that there were lots of people, not just the parents here at the school, but that there were people throughout the world,
mm,
throughout our prayer supporters and that were keeping me lifted up in prayer.
mm,
They didn't know what was going on with me fully. They just knew that there was something happening, that I was having
mhm.
some medical challenges. But so I would say those are some of the things where I've just really seen God working.
Yeah.
Um, but the biggest thing that I see that is, I think, the greatest success of the school to this day, and that I think will continue to be, that is our final uh, bell rings. So, you could say at 4 p.m. and there are parents and children that stay outside of our school building. They're sometimes there until 8 o'clock at night,
Wow.
and there are relationships that are being developed there um, in that setting that are leading to people coming to know the Lord.
Mm,
And it's you can kind of depend on the fact that your teachers are going to be sharing the love of Christ with their students, right? Even those that don't come from Christian homes. But to know and to see what's happening outside of our school building, where parents are doing life on life with other parents, and
mhm,
they're just they're out there in the plaza outside of the school, sometimes for hours and hours,
mhm,
and the love of Christ is being shared. That's a beautiful thing to see,
mm,
and that's where God continues to work. He's worked since the school first opened, and it continues to be a mission field and
mhm.
a place where He's working to this very day. So
Yeah. How about you, Lori? How have you seen God at work at GDQ and in Albania?
It's amazing to see all the ways that God is working in the community. We just came back from Christmas, and so looking at the opportunities that we had before then, we had a chance to interact with a couple different groups of elderly people, and that I think we saw God working in a lot of cool ways. With the students being able to interact at an elderly home with people that don't have family, even in Albania, just the emotion in those people's eyes, just being able to hug. And in Albania, they kiss, and so kiss these little kids, and they came to help them decorate a Christmas tree, and they sang songs, and it was just so sweet to see how God used something which for us it was a 2 minute drive from the school, something what seem like such a small thing, but such joy to these people's lives who don't have the chance to interact with little kids. And then having elderly people, the social group, come to the school, and the students had been praying for them individually, gave gifts, and they were just blown away by the amount of gifts that they were given. And these were not above and beyond kind of gifts. It was like hats and gloves and blankets and these day to day things that these elderly people needed, and they were just so blown away by that, and just the testimonies that they gave and how touched they were. And it was just really cool to see the interaction between those different generations. and Walter said, obviously, like having kids come to know the Lord, that is amazing and what we hope to see. And we had before Christmas one of the students that comes from a non Christian family, him actually and his grandma both accepted Christ. And so that was just a cool thing to see, not just, and Walter said this too, it's like life on life, but not just with the students at school, but their families as well, and having the chance to be able to share the gospel with not, with the families either directly or having the students go home and talk to the families about what it is that they're learning at school. So that was just a couple things that I've seen lately of what God's been
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. And not to mention that this year you relocated your school to a new building, right? That was
Yeah.
a huge deal. And seeing the Lord
Yes.
provide a new space and that it actually is a school building that you moved into, that's a huge answer to prayer.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was thinking like recent within the last month. That is above and beyond something that we've seen God do a huge thing in is the move to this new
Hmm.
school. And especially after having moved so many times and looking at so many
Mm,
places that yeah, this building has been such a blessing to us. And we have a long way to go in beginning a fundraising campaign. But it's been such a huge change and
yeah,
blessing to us to be in this building.
that's great. That's great. Well, we're going to end this episode the way we end every episode. And that is that we ask all of our guests, what's one thing that's changing your life right now? So I'll go first and give you a moment to think about it, and then we'll hear from each of you. But what's changing my life this week is a big deal for our family. We welcomed my niece, Greta Louise, to the family just before Christmas and got to meet her about a week later. And it was just so sweet to hold her in my arms. I know, Lori, you're an aunt too, and we love our nieces and nephews. So that is changing my life lately. How about you, Lori?
Well, congratulations. That is
Thank you.
above and beyond what my change of my week is. But for
Yes,
me,
it can be small. That's fine.
for me this week, something that has changed is the way that I drive back from school. I changed
Okay.
the way that I go. It's been kind of with the new building location, trying to figure out the best way to go to not sit for
Mm,
as long as I have to in getting back home. And this week, I found, well, people I ride with, we found the best possible solution, and I was able to get home in less time than in the past, and even in
that's
time
great.
to take a walk before the sunset, which is amazing. Usually, when I
Yes.
get back home, the sun's not out, so it has been amazing and life giving, and I am so thankful.
Yeah, that's a big deal. It's a small thing, but it's a big deal. That's
Yep,
great. That
yep,
Albanian traffic is not a small thing.
yep. No joke.
Well, what about you, Walter?
What's changing my life this week? I have I started up my grad coursework this week
Uh-huh.
again.
Yeah,
So the quote unquote spring semester has started,
right.
and so it's back to the adjustment of trying to balance
Mm,
out the head of school responsibilities with the being a grad student and a parent and a husband, and
sure.
because it was really really nice to be able to sleep for a very long time over Christmas break. But those days are gone, and now it's back to it. So I think that that's what's changing this week. It's not bad. It's actually, like I said, I'm enjoying what I'm learning, and I'm enjoying the work that I'm doing here. But that's I would say the biggest change this week. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much to both of you for sharing your stories, your experiences. It's been so great to learn more about how the Lord has led you to this point, what He's doing in your communities. And yeah, so thank you for joining me today.
That was such a great conversation. It is so interesting to hear about the life of a school from the perspective of the head of school.
I definitely agree. And as we mentioned earlier, there are a number of school leader openings around the world, whether head of school or director like Walter and Lori, or serving in other leadership roles such as a principal or a dean of academics.
To learn more about Teach Beyond and our current openings, visit teachbeyond.org/head of school.
Kian and I serve with an organization called Teach Beyond. As you have heard, education plays a big role in missions, and Teach Beyond is a part of that.
As followers of Jesus, Teach Beyond is a global community, providing transformational education services as part of God's ongoing mission to transform individuals and communities into all He intends.
Want to learn more and get involved? Visit teachbeyond.org or follow us on social media.
To help more people find the podcast and hear about Teach Beyond, we'd love it if you would leave a rating or review and share the show with a friend. Be sure you're subscribed or following the show on the platform where you listen so you never miss an episode.
And as always, you can reach us at podcast@teachbeyond.org. We'll see you next week.